So we have discrete functions, and those look like, on a graph, they look like just dots that are there, or points that are plotted. Okay, they're not connected. And so our domain is going to be the set of all of the x values that are listed. So you're going to list the x's. And for the range, you're going to list the y's with commas between them all. Okay, so for example, our domain for this particular graph would be -5, -2, -1, 1, 3. So I have a right here, right here, right here. On these points, right at those numbers on the x-axis. Okay, those are the numbers that we're using. All right, and our range is going to be let's do this in blue. The range will be listing the y's. So if this would be one of the numbers, this is a number, this is a number, this was one, and this was one. So we're going to start with the lowest, so that say that's -2 and -1, then 2, 3, and 4. So these values here are the ones that I used for the range, and I just listed them with commas. So then we have continuous functions. These are the ones that are connected. So it doesn't matter how many, there's infinitely many points on there. Let me move this so you can see it. Okay, so the continuous one might have an open circle here, and maybe it has an arrow here, or it could have a closed circle. Okay, I'll just draw another one. Okay, so it has a combination or some of the open circle, the closed circle, and the arrow. So one of those is on every end of it. All right, so our domain in this case, we're going to have inequalities for our domain and range. So our domain is going to be the lowest x value is less than or equal to or just less than x, and then the highest value. And our range will be in this format, same, where we have the lowest y, the lowest, okay, so we have the lowest y, and we have the highest y. So these symbols here all of these symbols could be just this. It just depends on your graph, okay? So we'll use whichever, if it's a solid dot or an arrow or what, okay? So for example, let's do a little example for, say, this graph right here. Our domain is our lowest, say it's -3. It's an open circle, so I'm just going to use the not equal to, just the less than. Put an X there because it's domain, and then it's going to continue this way forever because of this arrow. And so with infinity and negative infinity, we are not going to use or equal to. So you always just use just the arrow, the less than sign. And then our range is going to be our lowest, the lowest value here. So let's say that's -2. When we have the curve part, that's where we use the or equal to for sure. Then we have the y, because we're doing range. And then the highest is actually up here, not at the dot. So let's say that's at 1 to +3. And when we do the curve, when we list the highest point, we actually do the or equal to, and I'm calling that what, +3? All right, so with our domain and range, we have discrete, and we list our domain and range. We list each one. And the continuous, you can't list each one because you can't list all of the fractions. You put the inequality interval. All right, when do you use less than or equal to, and when do you just use less than? Let me give you a little chart for that. So when we have less than or equal to, that's going to be when you have a solid circle or dot, solid circle, or end point, however, or dot, okay? But the dot has to be connected to something. So I don't want to use the word dot. Okay, so that would look like this. Make sure I don't leave a little hole in the middle. Okay, and when you are turning when the graph is just curving. And it's the highest or the lowest point, okay? So when do we just use the less than only? We're going to use that when we have the open circle, or empty circle. Okay, so that's when you have that. You also use I don't want to make this line look like it's part of the symbol, so I better make it obviously different. Okay, so you also use the less than symbol when you have arrows and you're going to infinity. So infinity, you would always use this, and you would always use negative infinity. You're always going to have just the less than symbols, okay? And that's the infinity symbol, that sideways 8.